All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Noragami, Season 2, Episode 2.
We had a great start to a new season last
Really
episode.
good start. And Bishomon is getting some primary focus.
Yes, which I am a big fan of. I like Bishomon as a character. When I saw her design in the OP for the first episode, I was kind of like, I wasn't too sure, you know? But pretty much as soon as she was introduced and we got to meet her squad and everything, I was like, yes, this character's awesome. Now that we've met her, like, squad family situation with all the regalia.
Yeah.
Like, she's just even cooler.
And we also know a lot more about why she does all of this. And it's not fully clear. I like that it's something where we know what she is doing.
Right.
We know a little bit of why someone would do something so benevolent to people that are in a really rough spot when it comes to their function within the spirit world kind of society dynamic. And we've also seen in some ways how different Bishomon is in this respect from Yato.
Yeah.
Or from anybody
else. Right, because this is this is a huge weight that she's bearing here. Because
a lot.
Any of the regalia can then, you know, cause the blight to appear on her, in like we saw with Yato and Yukine. So she's got, you know, dozens and dozens, you know, maybe 100 regalia. I can't remember how many it was, but like a lot.
And in some ways, her kind of hosting them and taking them up in this regard for a form of rehabilitation, for a form of just kind of community and family even. Like, that's so wholesome to come from a character that we've seen in the past as being the one that hates Yato for things of the past.
Is the being of war, like, and fighting and all that stuff,
But now we can recontextualize it a little bit and say, well, yes, she wars against phantoms, but she's saved so many people to the point that I would see her as, in some ways, like, a hero of her own story.
Sure.
Like, she's something else.
Yep.
And she very much is terrified of Yato for that stuff in the past, to the point where she's having nightmares because of it. But, like, how does she reconcile, if at all? She probably doesn't much at all. Like, the fact that the present and the past don't necessarily have any connection.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then there is a dissension potentially in the family. There are other motivations.
Right. Like, there's the usual stuff of little bits of jealousy maybe within different regalia and stuff because there's just this many people and that happens in communities.
Yep.
But then there's also the stuff with Kuroha.
Yeah, what you doing with that mask there, buddy?
What you doing with that mask? What you doing with the whole thing of being like, oh, did you hear about what, you know, your second in command did? Did you hear what he was up to, what Cosmo was doing? You know, like that's...
acting kind of sus there.
Right, like,
Also, there's been some motifs that are going alongside the masks in that, well, the mask showed up with the baby.
Right.
And there was a mirror thing going on there, and then there was a broken mirror thing. So there's some things that they're trying to maybe give a little bit of emphasis to. So if we start seeing more patterns, especially into the second episode in those areas, well, I think the mask is going to be one of them, but we should be on the lookout for that kind of stuff.
And given that the masks were brought up in the
first
original episodes of the first season, and maybe in some of the
no, she had them.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
It was a Nora thing.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
But that's you know, that's more connections and stuff that like don't seem too good. So what's the whole situation with that? And what's the situation with this regalia that's getting friendly with Yukine all of a sudden? But apparently we're not supposed to hear their name. Yeah. But Kuroha was observing the fact that this was happening, like
with the mask.
Mask. So okay.
Yeah, I think what we're getting into here is that the world is going to mean a lot more because there's going to be so much more characters to focus on.
Yeah.
And given how the OP seems to be moving, which, by the way, this OP actually is somehow better than the first OP.
Yeah,
which is just blowing my mind that, like, okay, I'd heard this song so many times, and now it's like, oh, this is a Noragami OP. Just... all right, yes, awesome. But, second episode. Without further ado, y'all, let's just jump right into it. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Y'all, that was a good episode.
That was a really good episode.
Season 2 starting off strong.
Yep,
and really strong.
I love how many different like themes and connection topics and stuff they're going into here, because that was that was something that Noragami really focused on in season 1 in a very intimate, focused way that we could then get an easy grip on because it was handling within a limited number of characters, right?
Right.
Sort of show how the world works.
Dense.
But now it's dense, it's complicated, it's packed, because there are, as we see with Bishomon, there are a ton of characters here, and as we've seen now with Kugaha and Nora and all of this stuff, there are a lot of ways that can get complicated.
Yeah, so first things first, Suzuha, we were wrong about you, buddy.
God, I feel so bad for doubting him.
I could not believe how quickly they went from, hey, this boy is showing signs of being a little erratic, neurotic. And it's like, well, what? That doesn't mean necessarily anything malicious.
Yeah, no.
It's just, no.
But it means it's something that can be preyed upon.
Yeah. And freaking, the backstory was, powerful.
Oh, it was
simple,
great.
But it just,
Well, what I love about it is that one, it was good on its own, right? As a singular backstory, even if it wasn't in Noragami in this world with these characters, whatever, that would be a great backstory.
Yep.
Then he's talking about it to Yukine, right? This is awesome because Yukine has, after the first season, now he's started to realize, oh, I can't have these connections. I made a friend, this is great. And yeah, I'm, studying with Hiyori. This is awesome. Oh, wait, but what if she forgets you? Which makes me even more appreciative of the last episodes of season 1, even though they were anime original, because they brought up this whole idea of forgetting, and specifically with Hiyori and stuff.
It was a little bit more blunt in the season 1 stuff, but
it's a nice sort of segue into this topic for season 2.
Exactly.
And then there's the idea that, oh, yeah, we're getting that right before he dies as a result of this thing, right? This very understandable struggle that he had and that Yukine sort of relates to. And then,
Yato
what do you know?
To as well.
Yato, yes.
Even though he doesn't know that was a big connection point between the two of them.
I love it because it shows that Yukine and Yato both are still very similar or have to deal with similar struggles, even if they are very different people. And then, of course, it gave an opportunity to show how awful Kugaha is.
Yeah, so one of the things I think we're getting a pattern here already with is the idea of bonds between spiritual beings and the near shore, being people and stuff. And that's something that can give you power.
Right.
In the respect that Yato gave Kugaha a thorough beating without even a weapon. Meaning that, yes, Yato is strong, he is fast, and he is not going to get, sliced up by a couple, barriers that you can throw his way. So, you call your masked, adorned phantom to assist you there, because that's what you need, otherwise he would have been thoroughly thrashed. Because Yato immediately deduced, did you kill him? You just showed up here. That's convenient.
Right.
Were you responsible for this?
Yep. And I love that you pointed that out, that it was so immediate and that there wouldn't have been any normal way of figuring out that he had died. Like Bishomon knows because one of her regalia is dead, right? The name's gone. But for Yato, he comes up here, he's like, okay,
it's not being taken care of.
It's not being taken care of. I see the name here in the heart. Suzuha. Okay.
So he would care about this.
He would care about this. He would care about this, but then also that's something that could easily be used if someone wanted to, because maybe that's more of me assuming, but
I think what it was is that he saw, he has a bond with the near shore, the thing that then this guy ends up bringing up, and it's a thing of where he probably relates to it in some way, given that what he's doing, his job, his jobs are all kind of forming little mini bonds with the near shore.
Right, to just have enough so that he doesn't go away completely. Like it very much seems like a sort of hand-to-mouth feeding of someone that's starving.
Sure.
Like that Yato is basically almost gone. He's managed to cling around for a little bit because he keeps doing these odd jobs, but it's barely enough to sustain himself. That's why his connection with Hiyori is so important, because you must have a strong connection with someone on the near shore. I love that, because
and it's like, it's just one person.
It's just one person.
One person.
But the importance of one person, that can be so much. And I love this because with Yato, up till now, there's been this part of the way that he like addresses the whole idea of getting lots of followers and things like that. And even with Hiyori, right? Where it can have this sense of sort of it being utilitarian, self-focused and all of that.
Right.
Where it's you want your massive shrine, you want to be worshipped and all of that stuff. If you take out the whole God aspect, he's someone who knows that he desperately needs connection, that he is, in a very literal way, within the power mechanics of this story and this world, he is better for it when he is connected to people, right? And that he has had issues with losing those connections with people. He has been around for a long time, so there's this wealth of experience and knowledge and things that is the roots for where this is coming from, right?
But it's also probably the same thing holding him back from making connections, because as people start to get to know him and realize how alien and stuff he is to basically the plights and problems of people in the near shore. It's a little bit tricky there. So I really love what they're setting up here. This is, I would say, some really, really clever thematic weaving of multiple characters' story arcs towards a conclusion with regards to not their stories entirely, but like the conflict that arises from them moving into the same kind of overarching narrative. And it is basically about bonds. It is about the bonds that these characters all have and how bonds can save someone and also curse someone. Bishomon has taken on tons of bonds, and we are starting to see now the negative aspect of not being able to manage all the bonds personally and having to, in some ways, delegate it to people that might not have your best interests at heart.
The reverse problem of what Yato has. Yato doesn't have enough connections. Bishomon has so many that they sort of stop meaning anything. Right?
So and she's like, oh, this plant's not being taken care of.
Right.
Oh, shit.
Suzuha took care of this,
right?
The kids, I mean, kids, they're regalia, so who knows how old they are, but the regalia that used to hang out with Suzuha, and she's like, you hung out with him, like trying to ask them questions and stuff, and they're just
everything's okay.
Everything's okay. There is no war within the walls, and that's something that I totally understand where it's coming from, and from their perspective, it is probably a well-intentioned thing, because they're saying, we understand how much stress you're in. You need Kazuma just to help keep you functioning properly.
Right.
And a whole bunch of other things.
Yep.
We don't want to get in the way, since we don't even help you with your battles and stuff. We're already dead weight, kind of, in some senses, so we want to make sure that we aren't any more of a burden.
Yeah, it's almost like the thing that will save Bishomon is just, you need to take a break. And just focus on your family. It's literally the classic, like...
The workaholic.
The workaholic
kind of a thing.
that basically says, hey, I need to take a month or 2 or 6 to spend time with my family and remind myself of what's most important.
And
because this is one of the things that I love about a classic flawed idealist that will save the world before they save themselves, save 1,000 others before they do anything to save themselves from their cyclical destructive patterns. Because it's not that she's not taking care of herself. So double negative here. Bishomon is taking care of herself, but she's not taking care of herself enough.
Right. Because because it very much feels like to me that the reasons even that she's taking care of herself is not for the sake of taking care of herself. It's so that she can continue to function at this high level.
That she can save more people.
Exactly.
Yep.
So in this situation, like, and this is something that makes it a lot more compelling to me than the because the workaholic parent essentially that doesn't look after their family. I feel like that is a trope that is well known enough and has enough like good stuff to it, that oftentimes it's done without going too deep into the character of why, say, they're being a workaholic or whatever. Right. And in this particular situation, because it's not just that, I must provide for, my family of, 2.5 children or whatever, right? It's, I need to make sure that, dozens or maybe 100 people are able to continue this existence, because without me, they would not survive, right? It feels more like someone that's trying to keep a shelter going, right?
Yeah, I have heard a lot of stories from people who are in situations where it's either like a small mom and pop business, for instance, and there's a couple employees that they've specifically brought on because they couldn't get a job anywhere else.
Oh,
and
sure.
I worked at a place like this where there was a very much like assistant to the general building assistant kind of job. And it was given to this sweet, sweet elderly lady. And there were times where people who were newer, younger, kind of had their little moments of, what does she do? What's like,
what does she bring to the table? Why is she here?
What's like, shouldn't she retire by now? And it's this little thing of like, they end up, thinking it, and they end up going and saying it to the boss of like, I think we need a better person to do this job. And they just go, I need you to deal with it. I need you to basically accommodate it. And it's a thing of like, oh, gotcha. Right. I'm taking care of someone, and this is a burden that they, as the boss of the whole thing, are kind of being like, no, I will take care of that burden. I understand that the burden is now starting to affect you.
Right. Exactly.
But I need you to basically, step up in this regard.
Right. It's something where,
it's awkward, but it's like, oh,
yeah,
wow.
It's awkward, and in a situation like that, that's something where the person feels comfortable bringing it up to the boss. In this situation, they don't feel comfortable doing that. So it's a well-intentioned thing, because it's giving someone a place to belong and all of that stuff.
To call home.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. But then when these kinds of issues get brought up, you can't deal with them by pushing them down, and that's the troubling thing, is that at this high level of performance, you can't afford to make mistakes. You can't afford to sort of figure things out, You have to have it figured out. So they don't want to rock the boat, because rocking the boat is a problem. Even if the boat doesn't get capsized by it, that's an issue. And then things build up, and it might end up capsizing the boat if it doesn't get dealt with.
Well, so here's the other thing. If they turn it into a situation where Kugaha or Kuraha is sowing dissension because of probably some personal reason, it's probably
we'll find out what it is. But
the actual like full motivation. But what I would assume is starting to go on here is that Kugaha or Kuraha is not like wholly evil in this respect, like not just trying to do this for malicious, reasons or what have you, but is starting to see basically that things will get worse if it doesn't get like chopped off like really quickly. So it's like he's trying to avoid some kind of an even worse situation. Because I still remember that point when Nora showed up and he heard the voice, and he kind of like he flinched a little bit of like he probably calls her Nora specifically to remind her like, yeah,
I'm dealing with a dangerous thing here.
Oh, well, also to be a little bit like, I'm not scared of you. Like,
sure.
Like,
and I'm really glad that we got that scene, because for like several reasons. So with Kugaha in the previous episode, we could tell that something was suspicious that was going on. He had the mask and things like that. So they're thinking there's probably a connection to Nora, but there's a lot of mystery there, both with what he's doing, how he's doing it, and why he's doing it.
Yep.
That's three things. So having the conversation with Nora, we get one bit of the mystery solved. He is interacting with Nora.
And working with her of his own will.
And working with her of his own free will, right. Yep. Because it wasn't something where he was like, all right, enough of your dirty work, whatever, right?
No, he agrees with what's going on.
He agrees with what's going on. He is actively trying to take down Bishomon.
Yep.
Or at the very least, he is saying that to Nora, but it seems like that's what he genuinely desires.
He doesn't like the way things are going at the house at the bare minimum.
Right, at the absolute bare minimum, and it's probably a lot more than that.
Yep.
Now, we still don't know why he doesn't like
exactly.
He wants Bishomon out of the picture, right? We don't know the why of all these things, but we're a bit clearer on the what, right? And also the how.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And that's a way that we can basically get answers to that question, since he seems like he's the sort of main antagonistic force, at least of this part of the season.
Nora in the background.
Nora in the background, right? The overarching sort of main threat. But he's yeah.
I was just gonna say she seems to be just using regalia in some respect to make sure that she can get at Yato.
Right.
It all kind of eventually circles back to Yato, at least when she's involved.
And that's probably where they found common ground, is that he doesn't want Bishomon to be around for some reason or other, and she doesn't want Yato to be around, and they figured out a way that they can get both of those things if they work together.
It could be also that Kugaha or Kuraha, I'm going to have to just choose a name, because some of them call him Kugaha, and then other times they call him Kuraha. So Kuraha might be more of just like the weapon name, and then Kugaha might be just the casual name and stuff. But there is a potential that it's a thing of where, she said, like, I want Yato to be punished for, ignoring me or rejecting me and stuff. I need you to use your god in order to be able to fight them, because if it came down to it, Bishomon might be able to actually defeat Yato.
Right.
Or, at the very least, maybe kill Yukine, and then be able to push Yato to where she would actually be needed again by him. But there's also the aspect of where he was just cold as hell the way he used Suzuha there.
It was very malicious.
Venomous.
We don't know. Oh, definitely. And he specifically said, with this, Bishomon will be out of the picture or whatever, right? So that I don't know. Like, maybe it's something where he wants to specifically become free of Bishomon by removing her because he doesn't like how she runs the ship,
But he can just leave at any time.
Well, I don't think he wants to become a Nora, though. And maybe that's where there's that bit of, like, animosity, whatever, between the two of them, because he sees her and he's like,
that's not how that works. That's not how that works.
You do have to, the god has to actively release the regalia in order for them to go somewhere else. That was the whole bit with Yato at the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
But she just said, let me go, and Yato just did it.
Right.
Like, I don't remember it being a thing of where, like her choice or what have you wasn't a thing there. Like, all I think he would have to do if he really just wants to leave, which I don't think that's his motivation, personally, is that he would probably just come up to her and be like, I'm done.
I want to retire. Or,
I want to be done, And I just think she would...
Yeah, she would understand.
Understand that and be like, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm sure she's probably done that, a couple of times, where it's not even a thing of where, people in the house are like, there's problems and stuff, but there's just so many.
Yeah. Like, who knows?
That number definitely wasn't static the entire time.
Right. I who knows, that eye patch guy could have, got that eye patch in some crazy fight, and then he's like, I've done my service,
Yeah.
Let me be done. Yeah.
And that's not even the thing of him not being her regalia necessarily anymore. That's just saying, I don't want to be a part of the Imperial regalia, the main,
Right,
squad.
the fighters, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting to go into. Yato, though, with regards to him not wanting to be forgotten, and the bonds of the near shore thing granting power, what if Yato's big thing is just that he's basically begging with his 5 yen coin just to be...
Don't forget me.
Just to be remembered.
Remember me.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me in some ways of the way the Greek god kind of faith dynamic kind of thing worked, is that a god's strength would be to the increase of the faith that the followers had in the gods. But in the myths, one of the things that the gods would do to remind people that they are a god and that they should be worshipped is they would do things that aren't necessarily positive.
Right, they would do some smiting things so that it's you cannot deny my power.
Exactly. But Yato, a god of calamity, is doing the exact opposite, which means that in some ways he's intentionally choosing the harder route,
right?
To gain followers,
the restitution, the narrow path, the turning a new leaf. Yeah.
Well, right, but also, I am doing this for nothing. 5 yen coins.
Right.
It's a joke because it's kind of his gag, but it's also a thing of where, oh, dude, if you offered yourself to do things that were more dramatic or valuable, quote unquote,
he would get a whole lot more people remembering him.
Like, no, he does these little things. It's just, it's interesting.
I love it because it's something where the characterization for Yato and for Kukaha and a bunch of these characters bring with it a whole bunch of mystery, right? Because these are ancient beings.
Right.
We don't fully get the whole picture, but we're starting to see more. We're getting layers peeled back. And it's like, okay, cool. And that's very compelling because the layer itself is interesting, but then there's also the idea of there's more and I don't know what it is.
Right.
Right? And I love that. In addition to
fun.
Just being a big fan of Kazuma, I have to say again, he was awesome this episode. You're doing good. And without her knowing, right,
he went and did that whole inspection.
And they didn't bat an eye at it. Like they were, it was a bit like, They were a little bit like, whoa, everyone's been summoned here. Right.
Oh my
this
God.
is a big deal.
Right. And then the one guy with the eye patch was like, oh, is it what I think it is?
Right.
Kind of a thing of like, I've been here a while.
Yeah, exactly. And then and as the sort of the manager of the house of the estate and all that stuff, the one who handles the day-to-day affairs, this is a thing that we're just going to do. And in a lot of ways, Kazuma also would do well to bring some of this stuff up to Bishomon. In the same way that the kids weren't bringing it up to her, he kind of needs to bring this up to her because you need to both be on the same page, right? Because you also have limits, and you saw something where what should have been an open shut case of okay, I saw some blight, we'll do an ablution, we got everyone here, and then we'll just look through everybody and okay, that'll be it, right? Oh no, it didn't work.
I have so many bad jokes I want to make about like why we didn't find the blight.
Oh my god. Oh my god. But the fact that it seems Kukaha can probably, I'm guessing, manipulate like his influence at the very least on Bishomon.
I think one of the things that is going on here, and I think this is why Suzuha was introduced so early. I feel like this is almost coming out of left field here, but I feel like the theory just, it has to go this way. Is we never fully saw what would happen if a regalia turned into a phantom, right? So what I think happened is that she thinks Suzuha is dead. Suzuha is not technically dead. Suzuha is a abomination of a regalia phantom with the masks or something like that, and is currently drip feeding through whatever weakened aspect of their connection is still potentially there, a little bit of blight.
Maybe, but like
then why would it disappear?
That would be the kind of thing that would seem to be constant, and that she would definitely be able to tell. Like if the difference between a regalia dying versus turning into a phantom. Like I get the idea that it wouldn't necessarily take over her completely because she's got so many regalia. Maybe if one of them gets turned into a phantom, it's not as big of a deal as if Yato with only one regalia had Yukine get turned into a phantom, right?
Possibly.
Maybe.
I would say if anything, it would still be pretty strong. It's just that
it certainly wouldn't go unnoticed.
Well, okay, to compare it to cult behavior, because I have seen in person essences of what makes a cult really strong in terms of its community, is that you watch each other. In cults, one of the most terrifying things about it is that your own friends within the cult tell on you when you start showing the slightest hint of going against the grain. It is really insidious how much it is masked in the way of, we just want to take care of you and make sure you're doing okay.
We're concerned about you.
We're concerned. Exactly. Yeah, it's such bullshit.
And then you maybe tell people that really you shouldn't be telling about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So just get out.
Yep.
So I don't think that we're in cult territory here, but there is a connection there between the way that Kukaha, sorry, I'll choose a name, I swear, is doing basically faux versions of that. But specifically to make Kazuma and Bishomon's connection weaken a little bit.
Right.
By showing that he's incompetent or
right. And
stuff like that.
one of the things that I kind of like about this now, granted, the dogs weren't his, right? They seem to be Nora's, right?
No, all these phantoms do seem to be
Right.
hers, yeah.
But it's something where the strategy of how Kugaha is doing this is very much predatory. And the fact that he's the lion, it's like, you know, and the whole pet comment, like that was fun. You know, fun, happy little accident, even though Yato had no idea who he was.
Right.
But it's the isolating of the prey, right?
Yep.
Because, and this is one of the things that I love about this, because the fact that he has to do this builds up even more that Bishomon is that much of a badass, that Kazuma is that much of a badass, that the people that surround her, for the most part, are pretty awesome, right? That he wouldn't be able to do this. She would be untouchable if not for doing this, right? So, again, the power of connections, right?
Yep.
So, thematically, it just all works really well, and I'm very excited to see how the plot of this progresses, both the plot and then also the character stuff. So, yeah, like Yukine lost his friend. He just made a friend. Now they're dead.
Oh.
And he doesn't even know they're dead.
And he's already being a little bit scared of what would happen if, you know, he already forgot them.
Yeah.
And since we just had that basically happen, you know, not necessarily in canon, but
they told him that is something that happens all the time with humans.
Yeah. So, good stuff. Season 2 set up really strong. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general. And you can also check out our Twitch channel.
That's right. 3 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday. Monday is podcast. Tuesday is One Piece dramatic manga readings.
Yes.
Wednesday and Friday, Caleb does gaming.
I'm playing Hades.
Yep. And then on Thursdays, I do gaming, which right now is Persona 4 Golden.
Yes, if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.